Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Kerrville Weekly News Roundup, brought to you by the Texas Hill Country Podcast Network. We are the founders of the network and your co-hosts today in the studio, Andrew Gay, Gilbert Pies, and Tom Fox. Let me bring Tom up here real quick. Hey, Tom, good to see you. Why don't you do the honors as always and kick us off with your top news picks for this week?
Sure. Thank you. And my first pick is honor for County Treasurer Tracy Soldan, who's been named the Texas Outstanding County Treasurer for 2023. She was recognized at the 75th Annual County Treasurers Association Conference in September. She's been county treasurer here for 12 years and pretty big, in the county treasurer world, it doesn't get any bigger than that. So shout out to Tracy Soldan. Shout out to Kerr County for having such an outstanding public servant. My second story comes to us from our good friend Louis Amstoy at the lead, and it is about Habitat for Humanity and the continued opposition to their building a small housing tract of 40 homes in East Kerrville. The surrounding residents are upset for several reasons. Number one, they're upset about potential traffic the new homes will generate, because presumably some of these people will have automobiles. One resident suggested that Habitat for Humanity homes would drive down property values. They criticized Habitat for Humanity Executive Director Mary Campana for allegedly not being forthcoming on the project's scope or addressing the neighbors' concerns. One resident questioned Commissioner Tabor McMillan, who you and I know, Andrew, his eligibility to vote because he serves on Habitat's board of directors. So lots of opposition, a lot of NIMBYism going on here. If Habitat for Humanity can't build reasonably priced housing in Kerrville, I mean, we're never going to have reasonably priced housing. And but here's the final twist, and Louis Amstoy pointed this out, that if a preliminary plat has met the basic state requirements, planning and zoning either has to approve it or it's automatically approved. And that's not county law, that's state law. So I don't want to say these people are whistling Dixie, but they're equally inanely throwing up objections to something that, if it's been previously platted, this is probably going to go through. So not a good look for those residents, but here we are.
Thanks, Tom. What a great story. That's thank you for reporting on that. You know, I think the workforce housing issue, even though Habitat for Humanity doesn't necessarily spill over into that bucket, I think that it's just kind of that the conversation kind of fits into that same mold as well. So it's definitely a hot topic for us here in Hill Country. Gilbert, what do you got for us?
Well, I've got three stories that I'd like to talk to everybody about this week that have been big news makers here in Kerrville. First of all, the first story is about the recent rash of vehicle thefts in Greenwood Forest. It's a little bit outside of Kerrville per se. It's in Ingram, but if the problems that are happening in Ingram carry over to Kerrville, which isn't that far away, of course, it could be a serious issue. There were several car break-ins, and there was at least 2 vehicles that were stolen out of Greenwood Forest. And of course, you know, a lot of these break-ins are happening overnight when people are asleep. People make the mistake of thinking that we live in small-town America and that these things don't happen, but they do. Of course, in urban areas like San Antonio, those types of things are pretty common. But here in Kerrville and Kerr County and Ingram, we haven't really had those problems until now. And of course, most people, you have to remember, we do live in a relatively decent-sized city now, and you're going to have to take your valuables inside. Do not leave them in your car. If you leave your purse on the front seat or in the back seat, don't be surprised when your car gets broken into. Same thing with computers, laptops, phones, and of course the whole crazy one, firearms. People leave those in their car and they leave them unsecured. They get stolen. So you got to be careful. Think about that. The other thing I wanted to talk about, my other two stories that I wanted to talk about were also brought to us from our friend Louis Amstoy with the lead. And the first story there I'll talk about is the recent Sheriff's Department had a sex offender roundup, or a check-in is, I guess, really what you should call it. What they did, and I think this is in anticipation of October 31st, which is Halloween, and kids going around neighborhoods. They did a
Very timely.
Yeah, very timely. They did a check-in, and so they were able to locate or at least identify several sex offenders. They did a check on 71 sex offenders, and they found that 11 of them were out of compliance. They also found one that was found a fugitive. It doesn't say here if he was actually a sex offender, but he was definitely a fugitive. And then they're still searching for 2 others that are part of the sex offender program, but they couldn't find them, so they're looking for them for possible registration and probation violations. And then they also, in the process of doing the check-ins, discovered some information about the sale of narcotics in the area, which, of course, is a big problem for every community, not just Kerrville. And then last but not least, also from our friend Lewis, Kerrville Police Department is launching their annual Blue Santa program. If you're not familiar with Blue Santa, it's a program designed for children 13 and younger who are in families that, are having a really tough time making ends meet. And they're trying to just bring the holiday spirit of peace, love, and happiness to these families. And so if you know somebody that perhaps is eligible or is interested in the program, they can pick up an application at the Kerrville Police Department inside the main lobby between 8 and 5 p.m. There's an application process. They don't just let anybody participate. There's an application process, and there's some requirements before you can participate. But in addition to toys and gifts for the children, the Rotary Club also helps provide food baskets to make sure that everybody in the family has a good holiday. So if you know somebody that could be eligible, ask them to go pick up an application. The applications are due back, let's see here, by October 27th. So you've got to the end of the month, basically, to get your application in there if you're interested. And then, of course, even if you're not interested in participating in receiving a present or a gift from Blue Santa program, if you're interested in making a donation, which is also very important, because, of course, without community support, these programs can't be successful. If you're interested in making a donation, you can also make a donation to KCPAAA, which is the Kerrville City. No, let's see. There's a nice acronym. Oh, it's the police. Dang it!
I'm just gonna watch you struggle with it.
Yeah.
Say the acronym one more time, though.
KCPAA. It's the.
Okay.
I know Lewis has it in here somewhere. Here we go. Kerrville Citizens Police Academy Alumni Association. That is the group that actually puts on the Blue Santa program.
It's a long acronym.
Yes, it's a heck of an acronym. You can always make a donation to the program. They are a certified 501c3 organization, so any donation you make is tax deductible, and they would be honored to receive it. You can certainly mail it to them at P.O. Box 290629 here in Kerrville. And, of course, the zip code, because it's a P.O. Box, is 78029. Or I'm sure if you made your way to the police department with a check for Blue Santa, they would gladly receive it for you.
I don't think that they would turn you down.
Yeah, I think they would forward it on. So, Blue Santa, think about it, participate in it if you can, and make a donation. Thank you.
Thank you, Gilbert. For myself here, I got 2 mentions for us this week. Number one is the one and only infamous Kinky Friedman will join Quiet Valley Ranch for Welcome Home Fest. This is under the umbrella of the Folk Festival. They made an announcement this past week. The Kerrville Daily Times had an article on it. He will be playing there next weekend, October 13th. And shout out to Tom Fox, who's here with us. Just recorded an episode on the Hill Country podcast, which is part of the Texas Hill Country Podcast Network, with Deb Rouse, who is the new executive director of the Kerrville Folk Fest. So I was fortunate enough to be able to sit in on that interview. Wonderful podcast episode. Just came out earlier this week. You can find it on our website, or it is on Spotify and iTunes as well. So So you can look to follow our links there to find that episode from the Hill Country Podcast. And then the second mention that I had is Riverfest. So also next weekend, if you don't know, we're having the first of 2 eclipses that are going to bless our presence here in the Texas Hill Country, specifically Kerrville. But at the same time, we're having a couple of other events that are happening here from the city's perspective. At the same time, this eclipse is going to happen next Saturday, October 14th. Riverfest is one of them, so I wanted to mention that. That is going to be a festival that's happening with some live music, tons of vendors, lots of lively action down here in Lewis Hayes Park next weekend. And like I said, it's going to be during the Saturday during the time period on Saturday when the eclipse is actually happening. This is going to be the annular eclipse. So in April, what we will see is the total solar eclipse, but the one that we're going to see next weekend during Riverfest, while Kinky Friedman's playing at the Kerrville Folk Festival, Quiet Valley Ranch, is going to be an annular eclipse. One other shout out to our podcast network, actually, for Tom and myself had recorded a podcast on the eclipses. It is on our website and Spotify as well, and iTunes. But in this most recent magazine issue of the Kerrville Area Visitors Guide. I'm going to hold this up. I don't know if y'all can see this. Let's see if I can do this here. This is the Kerrville Area Visitors Guide. So this is from the Texas Hill Country Culture folks, which is actually owned by the Daily Times, I believe, if I get my facts straight there. They just released this magazine issue. I picked one up the other day from the Daily Times, but I believe you can grab them at HEB and a few other places around town. And this has a great article in there about the annular solar eclipse coming up next weekend, how to watch it, where to watch it, things to look out for, some fast facts, and just a little bit of the backstory and the differences between the annular eclipse that's expected next weekend and a total solar eclipse that we're going to see in April. What's the difference between those two? How do they differ? And what to expect. And then last but not least, they did mention us here as a resource. So we got the first mention of the Night Sky podcast, the award-winning Night Sky podcast in the newest issue of the Kerrville Area Visitors Guide. So thank you guys very much for your support there, for our podcast, and for the shout out. We greatly appreciate it. So those were my only 2 mentions for this week. What, before we get off, do you guys have possibly planned for this weekend? Do you have anything exciting going on?
This is one of the greatest sports weekends of the year.
Oh, it's the
11 a.m. Saturday, Red River Shootout.
That's right.
UT will stomp OU.
They will stomp. You heard it here first. Tom Fox's prediction.
What's
that's
the
right.
score
11 a.m. That's 11 a.m. 3:45 a.m. The world champion Houston Astros start their 2023 title defense against the Minnesota Twins at Minute Maid Park in Houston. Yes, Carlos Correa is returning to the Houston Astros. I can't wait. Playoff baseball is the best, at least as long as the Astros are in it. So I've got a great sports day. And it doesn't end there, because Sunday night, the Cowboys are going out to San Francisco to play San Francisco 49ers, the 2 top teams in the NFC. Once again, can't wait. So I'm going to bookend my sports watching weekend and end it with the Cowboys. So how about them Cowboys?
How about them? Tom's going to have some serious quality TV time, sports watching time. That's awesome.
You better check yourself, Tom. You might have a heart attack if all 3 of your teams win
or lose. We don't want them to lose.
Yeah, I'll have a heart attack maybe if they lose, but no, I'm pretty good if they win. I'm a pretty good loser, but I'm a crappy winner. So abuse will be held this weekend to anyone.
Abuse will be held. All right, Gilbert, you got any plans this weekend?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Saturday and Sunday, our local church, Andrew, is going to have their fall festival. So Notre Dame Church at the church grounds right next to the church, they're going to have their annual festival, and it'll be a fundraiser for the school primarily, I think. But it'll be a good time. They'll have bouncy houses, games, and food, a live auction, silent auction. They'll have bingo on Saturday. And oh, but did I mention food? Yeah, they'll have a lot of food, and then music too. They'll have some music, so it'll be fun. If you've got time, please go out there, help support that local church and the school, and if nothing else, get some food and drinks and enjoy the weather. It's going to be a really nice weekend.
Say, that's what I think we're all looking forward to. I'm looking forward to some nice weather this weekend, and that sounds like it's going to be fun. I think we're going to have a really good turnout there. We don't have a lot of planned this weekend. Other than we have a game night planned Saturday night with some folks. We got Oktoberfest. We might take a trip over to Fredericksburg and take a peek at that. But Sunday, my wife and I are playing in a co-ed flag football fundraiser over in the eastern part of the county. So that's going to be at Bobcat Stadium. So that's going to be a fun. I might come. You might see me next week with my arm in a sling and my and a knee brace on. You'll know what happened.
Sounds like fun. Be careful. Be safe.
That's right. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. That will do it for us this week. I hope that you have a safe and fun weekend. Get out there, do something fun, enjoy the weather, do something local, stay local, support local. We appreciate your support. Thank you guys so much. See you later.